If you're in your 20s or your 30s and you have the opportunity to move back home with your mum and dad or your auntie, uncle, grandparents, whoever it is, and pay less in living costs because you don't have to pay rent. If you have that opportunity rather than renting privately, if you don't do that, you need your head checked, because unless your parents are abusive or your mental health really can't deal with living back home with them, there is no reason why you shouldn't take the opportunity. I always see so much discussion online and people feeling ashamed for moving back home in their 20s and 30s. I moved back home in my 20s. I rented privately when I definitely couldn't afford it with my friends for like a year in South London. And I had no money by the end of it. So I took myself and I moved back in with my parents for about 2 years. And that is what allowed me to save up my deposit to then buy my own house. I think movies have convinced people that you're a bum if you're still living at home in your 30s. But in reality, I don't think that that's the case at all. In fact, in a lot of cultures, it's customary for you to stay living at home until you're married anyway. Now, I've seen some people's parents take the absolute piss when it comes to them moving back home, and they take liberties charging an insane amount for rent for a small space, but then still want to tell their children exactly what to do. If that is your case, I'm not saying you need to move back home. Those are circumstances that I don't even think I could live in myself. But that's not to say that you shouldn't contribute anything. Some people's parents don't charge them rent. Even if you aren't charged rent, I still would say that you should contribute something to the household if you're living there and using the water and electricity. Do you know what I'm saying? But under no circumstances should you ever feel ashamed for living with your parents so that you can actually grow and build a pot for you to move on to your next stage of life. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is it acceptable to live at home with your parents into your 30s? I would love to.
He made a solid point. It's true. In most culture, you can stay at home until you get married and then leave your house. You have to stay at home until you find someone, then you leave and you get married and you get your own house together. But we're living in a modern day and age, so we got to be serious and we got to be authentic and keep it 100 with us. So I feel like sometimes women need to stay at home, and the only time they should leave their house if they find someone that's going to take them seriously, build together. So that one is 100% fact. But most women wouldn't agree with me, and most women will want to seek independency from early. The first thing that I've seen that is a mistake was actually shared accommodation with your friends. When you're leaving your parents' house and you went to go share an accommodation, biggest mistake a lot of people do when you're trying to share a flat with your friend. Sometimes your friend might not even come up with the rent. The real way to do it is actually go and find a shared accommodation with people you don't know and learn how to build your character that way. When you do things like that, you know that other people are going to have to come up with their rent. If they don't, they're going to lose their position and someone else is going to come there. You already know that. So you're only primarily focusing on yourself and self-development. You're gallivanting with your friend to live together. That's the first L that a lot of people take. When you do that, you're relying on your friend to come up with the other half. And when he doesn't, it's going to shamble your own thing and it's going to make you go backwards. In your 30s, if you're going back to go live with your parents' house, you should be ashamed of that, because if you're not ashamed of that, how are you going to grow? How are you going to better yourself? How are you going to be a better leader? How are you going to lead your family? Things happen in life, but sometimes you got to get yourself ready. That's why the first step you make sure you don't do this shared accommodation with your friends. You go straight into it by yourself. Accommodation with someone. After you do that, you share a room. From that room, you probably get a studio. From that studio, you get a flat. After that, you're creating this independency. You're never going to have that room for you to make mistakes in your 30s. When you're making those type of mistakes in your 30s, is because you've been skipping the process, and that's the reason why a lot of people be going backwards, because they skip the process. He touched on, he went back home to his parent, and his parents are probably cool people. Unless your parents, you feel like they're gonna mess up your mental health, don't go back there. If you got some cool parents and you feel like, you want to go back, by all means go back, build yourself up, reset. But you should only be allowed to do that one time. It shouldn't be a thing where you do that all the time. He said he was with his parents for 2 years, put a down payment on a house and bought a house. You guys need to understand, when you guys get a mortgage, you don't own the house. The bank is still your landlord. You just are occupying that house until you fully make payments. People think that, I'm only staying in my mum's house or staying in my parents' house to save up so I can buy a house. Bro, you don't own the house, bro. I want to say this to you guys here that has this mentality thinking, I just bought my own house, I own my own house. Bro, it's a mortgage, bro. Mortgage in Latin means death. We're living in a day and age where financial literacy's got to be on point. You can buy a house and be working in a corporate working place and get fired from that. And if you ain't got no money to pay your rent, you're going to lose your house. You need to start thinking smart. The best solution that I will always say to Gen Zs, millennials, best solution that I will always say to Gen Zs, because I'm going to be talking to Gen Zs, because obviously my age group, 36, we should be, be independent by now. So for the Gen Zs is, if you're living in your parents' house, try to make some type of cash flow that you created yourself while you're working at the same time. Trust me, that cash flow is going to save your life. The first thing I did when I left my mother's house is make sure that I created a business that can give me that cash flow to look after me if I needed any type of financial stability. So I say that to you, yeah, you're never going to get that time back when you're free, when you're living in your parents' house. Because once you leave your parents' house, the clock's ticking. Before you blink your eyes, it's going to be the 30th, it's the end of the month, and that's when the bills come. You're not going to have time to invest in yourself because whatever job that's giving you that money is just going to be in that rat race now, because it's like, all right, cool, you got to go to work, you got to make sure that you're at work so you can pay your rent. Consist rat race. But if you're at your mum's house or your parents' house, build yourself a business while you are working. Business is going to always save you. 9 to 5 workplace, it's never going to sustain you for long. I say this to you guys, yeah, that's just actually starting off. Make sure you invest in yourself. We have so much tools out here for you lot to grow and invest in yourself. Put in that work. Put yourself in the deep end. You guys should actually be inviting pressure. Pressure is actually good, because when you have pressure within yourself, you know you have to get something done. So I say that to a lot of you guys that's living at home with your parents right now. Try to figure out something that's going to give you a cash flow that you created for yourself. Don't rely on a job to be able to make you free. You can still go to work, but it should never be the end goal, because trust me, we're living in a day and age where you need to rely on yourself. You need to rely on your income that you created for yourself. At the same time, working for whatever corporation that you're working at, because it's real out here. The only thing I would say to a lot of you lot that's living in your parents' house and you're saving for a house and whatnot, make sure if you are going to buy a house, you're going to, have a certain type of cash flow for you to sustain that house, and you're not relying on your job to, pay for that house, because someone can own you, but you're going to be owned. In this world that we're living in, yeah, trust me, guys, you buy a property and go to your workplace and tell them you buy the property, the person that hires you knows that, okay, cool, he needs me because he needs to keep paying those mortgage payment. You feel what I'm saying? They can have that over your head. That's how you get enslaved easily. One thing I like about being independent and actually putting myself in the deep end, because you learn all these things from early, because you're in survival mode. But when you go back and you're just, living in your parents' house, especially when you're like 26, 25, or even in your 30s, and you're just there in your parents' house and you're like, yeah, I want to buy my house before I leave here. I don't want to rent and whatnot. Trust me, man, like when you get into the real world, bro, you're going to understand that those are manipulation tactics to keep you guys in line in the corporate world, especially in the rat race. Like, help the machine work with that type of mindset. So I say that to tell you guys that you guys that's in your parents' house, you're in the best generation right now. There's stocks available to you. There's cryptocurrency, there's things for you to invest your money to make your money grow for you while you're trying to figure it out. While you're working, you're putting it into a nice investment portfolio. Let that grow for you. Create yourself a cash flow, passive income. Not get yourself in debt. Get yourself in debt. Trust me, you're going to feel it. Because a lot of you guys right now, you say you want to leave your house, but you're out here, you're parking up the new X6 outside your mum's house. You're parking up the new Range Rovers at your Marjay's house. You're paying all this high payment every month. Guys, you got to move like your parents are not about. If you want to survive in this world, bro, you got to move like your parents are not about. I mean, I hear what he was saying. You don't feel a certain type of way to go back home. You should feel a type of way. That's going to help you, motivate you, and make you go the extra mile. When you always know there's a safety net, you're never going to go the extra mile, guys. You get what I'm saying to you? So you should really be feeling some type of way in your 30s and you felt like you got to go back to your parents' house. There's always a way. You got to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable sometimes in life, You got to do that. That builds character. You know what I mean? But anyway, I'm going to catch you guys in the next video. You guys stay blessed. Peace.
God gave me grace. God gave me style. God gave me grace. God put a smile on my face. God made me smile on my face. God made me shine like the sun. God made me shine like the sun. Sometimes I feel like I'm the one. Sometimes I feel like it ain't my fault.